$240,000 of debt? Hey everyone, my name is Mike Andes. I'm the founder of Augusta Lawn Care. We have over 150 locations. Today, we're in St. Louis with Dalton's Lawn Care. Like, we're still gonna do around 500,000, you think, this year?
And that's kind of where we're at.
Well, he's been saving up for his second truck. He bought the truck, but he had to put 80,000 down.
Yeah, made that decision over the winter, and there's been nothing but stressful since.
The thing that's killing us is the fact that February and March we lost $60,000. But the thing that's really bad is recently they've had a whole bunch of break-ins at their shop.
Everything of value that we can easily steal and sell is in that trailer.
Look how thin this is. Stuck a knife, cut this thing right out. Not that I have any experience whatsoever doing that. And a brand new dump truck they just purchased got stolen off the lot.
The dump truck's gone. I said that's what they plowed through the fence with.
Heart started beating, like, are you kidding me?
And that's when he kind of lost it.
No matter how much I want to say, no way, it was my employees, like, you can't cancel that out.
I'm gonna need a significant raise.
If it wasn't for my one employee, Josiah, I would probably sell the business or try and get out. I just need help.
Let's see if we can turn this thing around. What's up, brother?
Morning, how are you?
Good, man, how you doing?
Good, great now that you're here.
Nice little spot you got out here.
Yep, I say it's a nifty little spot, but location is largely what led to the break-ins. Tucked behind, out of sight. Almost everything that's been there has been there for over a year, no issues, and it's more secure now than it initially was. My own between, like, pretty much right up to where I cleared, but down the corner a good 30 feet down.
Oh, you own this?
Yeah, or well, have a loan on it.
Okay, so they basically went around the ends of the fence, came in.
Yep.
Oh, they got a little getaway road. It's like it was built for being stolen from. Oh yeah, dude, this is too easy. You gotta go another 20 feet.
Somehow, someone noticed our shop with equipment, secluded in the corner.
Back behind a warehouse, back up the truck. You can actually drive a truck in here. Yeah, they just go right around this stuff. Mercy.
Our dump truck was parked actually right where we're standing.
Yeah.
The equipment trailer was where the dump trailer is. I scoped it out, and we're able to pinpoint that, okay, all the equipment that we want and are able to steal and sell is in the trailer. And they knew everything was in there, not sure how, but that was their target. That's what blows my mind still is that. And they didn't try breaking into any of the other trucks or anything.
Yeah, that was a fun day. Yeah, I pulled up to the shop. First thing I noticed was the fire hydrant was taken out because it was just spewing water everywhere.
Called Josiah at like 6:30 or something. I was like, oh, but I'm not gonna come in this morning. About 5 minutes later.
I called him back, told him, the gate's been ran through, something happened.
At that point, I'm like, oh gosh, what happened? Heart started beating, stomach turned a little bit.
And I asked him, I said, hey, is the dump truck still supposed to be here? And he said,
what do you mean it's not there?
I said, well, the dump truck's gone. I said, that's what they plowed through the fence with.
And then I just kind of froze. I'm like, no. All right, check everything else.
So I went up to look at the trailer.
Started gathering my stuff to head up there. And about 2 minutes later, he calls back and tells me
all the stuff was gone out of the trailer.
I'm like, are you kidding me?
And that's when he kind of lost it.
All the equipment from our trailer was gone. Threw it all in the dump truck, backed the dump truck around, rammed through the gate, and then got stuck on the fire hydrant, and I just kind of lost it.
Rightfully so. I would have too,
But already kind of having a bunch of hiccups this year, like, this cannot be real. I can't believe it.
Yeah, he wasn't real thrilled.
Last week I was planning on doing a handful of changes, kind of our coping mechanism post break-in. Each camera was $200, the lights. Slowly gonna transition to all those proven industry locks, which are $300 a pop.
So look how thin this is. If you just you could literally just cut open and walk right in. That's the problem with these things, dude. Even if you have a lock on the back, there's nothing preventing it from there's like thin metal. Like, yeah, great locks, but between these beams, just stuck a knife, cut this thing right out. Not that I have any experience whatsoever doing that, just to be honest.
You say a prayer before you open the gate every day to make everything's here.
Cool, and what was your name?
Josiah.
Josiah, good to meet you, man.
Good to meet you.
He's pretty much the right-hand man. Only one that stepped up well, all year, all winter, but especially post break-in.
And pretty much the lawn care manager at Dalton's. Pretty much do everything. I do landscaping, I do estimates, lawn care, fix equipment. Pretty much there's not much I don't do here.
The problems he's facing today are gonna be different than a month ago when he applied. So in the past month, kind of like since the break-in and everything, because that's when you first originally contacted us.
Yep.
What's it been like?
Quite a bit in past dues, transitioning from Element into Copilot. Out of the blue, their auto charge stopped actually auto charging, and we were unaware. So for like 2 months, thought everything was still being auto charged, and it wasn't. So then we just had giant mess and cleanup and everything.
How much receivables do we still have? Do you know?
As of now, there's about 30,000.
Dalton has over $30,000 in accounts receivable. In other words, just work that he's already completed and sent the invoice and the customer hasn't paid. It's super important to be able to actually collect the money once you've earned it from the customer. There's profitable businesses that can go out of business because they never actually collect on the work they've done. In fact, the $30,000 in receivables that Dalton has could have paid for all the security measures he needed around the shop.
So I knew that that was an absolute must-do. Get someone answering the phones, because I've been using Jill's office.
Jill's office. This is Jill speaking.
Which is $500 a week. Does absolutely nothing other than give me an absurdly long list of to-dos.
And they were just doing phones. They weren't doing like other admin
Yes,
stuff.
exclusively phones.
Just the phones.
So I was like, need someone, even if they can't do everything I want or need right now, having more than just an answering machine that costs $500 a week is gonna help tremendously. So our new office admin, last week was pretty much her first full week.
And is she working like part-time, full-time?
So I want to say she's part-time, which I actually do have a handful of questions to ask you about that with her being remote.
It is brutally difficult to have an admin person working for you remotely.
I never personally met Lisa. I talked to her on the phone. We actually had a joke going between me and the guys that Lisa never existed for a long time. Right, Dalton made her up. I talked to her a few times. She wasn't too bad of a gal.
So I'm kind of just now at the point of navigating that change, trying to create a system and figure out everything with employees. Because I say 2 of them that are working right now have some issues. If it wasn't for the break-in, potentially would have been demoted and or fired. Was always leery about hiring friends, but actually my first ever employee was a friend that I was extremely skeptical about.
Dalton hired people into positions when they didn't have the experience to do those positions, I guess you'd say.
And it ended in a very strange and not so good way. He pretty much lied about everything he was doing. All of 2023, he was amazing, stepped it up, did all sorts of stuff I never asked him to. I'm like, you are just absolutely killing it.
With this company being such a small company and Dalton trying to run it like it's, you know, a massive operation, I guess Dylan kind of got a little overwhelmed with stuff.
It was always saying, oh yeah, I want to be your right-hand man, which having known him since 2014 was very believable. And then since he's got a kid, I knew I'd probably lose him over winter if I couldn't keep him employed. So I was like, I'll put you on salary over the winter to help him out, make sure that he came back the following year with the expectations that you help me get all of the Copilot stuff set up, and then that's gonna give you the knowledge and everything.
And he just dropped off during the winter.
And then I guess he just decided, since he was getting a paycheck, that he didn't need to do as much work, so Dalton ended up overpaying him.
And then that was kind of the start of the decline. He said he was doing everything, didn't really oversight him. I go do something like, what the heck, this ain't done. He would say things would get done. I would just take his word at it. There wasn't really any overlap in what I was doing and he was doing.
And with Dalton not being in the field to help out, it kind of pushed him into being lazy and kind of, I guess, brought his morale down.
And then I really started looking, I'm like, what the fuck, nothing's done. And then I unfortunately learned the hard way that almost everything that I told him he needed to do over the winter hadn't been done. Had us go back to the same 1-yard mulch job 3 different times. Everything was bad.
That was pretty much, I think that was pretty much the line of when it was like, okay, like,
It's time to
for
let
you
him
to
go, show up, everything's stolen. Like, all right, well, now you're with us still.
Putting frontline team members on salary is a tempting proposition to retain them over the winter or off season. The problem with this is that if your revenue goes way down and yet you're still paying everyone the same amount, you're going to burn through all your cash reserves during the off season. The goal to be able to fix this problem is to create season specific offers with season specific services and try to be able to produce more revenue during the off season. If you can't do that, you might have to lay some people off, give them a guaranteed start time, and even give them a bonus in order to get them to come back when the spring rush begins.
So like this land, what was the total value on that?
Listed at 310, so from a value standpoint, I'd say that's the range.
But you had to put 80,000 down.
Yeah.
So that's really what kind of like crippled us from the
Yes.
cash perspective. Then all this happened and we just didn't have the cash to buffer it. So how much debt is total in the business now, like equipment and everything else?
Yeah, so minus the land, I want to say probably 25,000 would be my guess for the fence loan.
And that's all there's really debt on right now.
And then like 3 or 4 grand on on the second plow through Sheffield, and then that's all of it, excluding the repurchase of equipment about a month ago, which was 6 grand.
My mindset is like right now we're operating the business still in growth mode, which is like get an admin person, get more trucks, hire. When like now, because of what's happened, unfortunately, I think we'll have to switch it into profit mode.
Honestly, really, it wasn't until last night that really hit me and started to feel very surreal. Oh my gosh, he's actually coming. Well, he's coming because I'm dealing with some pretty big issues, but given the circumstances, this is probably the best outcome anyone could ask for, is having Mike come in. Hello.
Dude, I love the crib down here, dude. Yeah, basketball.
I was saying this is my little man cave,
Let's
stress
go,
relief,
dude.
work office, you name it.
Dude, sweet.
I was looking at making a just 1 hour call with them. Early April, I checked. I'm like, wow, it's $1,800 an hour? Yep, nope, that's out of the picture. I'm like, all right, well, let me try a turnaround video so I don't have to pay for it. I just left that page open for like 2 weeks. I'm like, no, I can power through, closed out of it. And that was like the Tuesday prior to the break-in. That following Friday, I'm just like, all right, yep, time to submit the video.
My main thing is like, okay, like short term, it's the crunch is just getting enough cash to get by.
Yeah.
Then it's like long term, how do you actually make the business profitable and sustainable? Do you want to pull up last month in terms of like either QuickBooks or even just a report? In April, when you did 70,000, was there a couple big projects in there, or you were collecting on some big project?
Our biggest job was 4,500 or something. Last year, for reference, we had multiple 20,000, 30,000. So in comparison, very small, but I've came to the realization sub $10,000 jobs is
sweet
what's,
spot.
yes,
Doing large projects that are worth tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue is exciting, but they can also take a lot more skill and management from you as the owner.
That's where we did up to like $100,000 jobs, right? And it would take forever to get estimates out because you really do have to think the whole thing through.
Yeah.
Every single aspect of site prep, equipment transport, like everything.
Accessibility and how that affects it, who's gonna be on the job.
Which
can
is
they
usually gonna be
handle-
you.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily saying that everyone should do mowing or basic services, but if you're gonna get into these big projects, just know that it will take a lot more time and attention from you to make sure the job goes smoothly.
Part of the thing I did want to address is that I actually have a weekend warrior crew. They are absolutely phenomenal with hardscaping, and they're harassing me to work.
So they just want to work on like Thursday, Friday, Saturday situation?
They're just pretty much all Saturdays.
Okay.
But the accountant said, since I pay the weekend crew really well, that I'm basically losing all profits.
My biggest concern with projects, and it's not a matter of whether or not they're profitable, it's actually a matter of the time of the owner is spent all on that.
Again, I'm not saying that projects or large jobs are bad. You can make a lot of money, especially in very skilled niches of the industry. You can make a lot of profit.
So I say, I do know I spend way too much time on it, but as a trade-off, I don't know the exact percentage, but I know my close ratio on big projects is exceptionally high.
Yeah, and like typically when we look at labor, we want to be making it, like I call it the rule of 25%, which is if I'm paying them $35 an hour, I need to be charging the customer 4 times that, which is $140 an hour.
Yeah.
Right, and to make that sense of 25%, which I'm guessing we're not at 140.
No. Yeah.
Right, so that's why like we got to raise prices on the projects.
Yeah.
70% of revenue is going to cost of goods sold, which is direct cost on every project. That is labor, materials, and subcontractors. No overhead. That'd be no insurance, no fuel, no truck payments, no equipment, nothing. Usually that's around 20 to 30% of your revenue anyways, so high likelihood we're not making a lot of money.
So defaulting back to that same system is gonna upkeep the top line revenue, but pretty much doesn't add any profit.
Like, I think you can make good money with the current setup in terms of having the weekend crew. You're gonna have to raise prices on it,
Yeah.
but I am leery to build the whole business model around temporary labor like
Yeah.
that, because if all of a sudden they all like, hey, they find something full-time and they're gone and they start their own thing, then we're in a bad spot.
I'm always trying to create systems in the business. And one of the easiest ways to think about systems is just that you're trying to create a repeatable outcome over and over and over again. And how do you do that? How do you create systems? You simplify and standardize every single part of the job.
Yeah, so I'd just like raise prices dramatically on projects. If you're, especially if you're passionate about, like if that's what
Yeah.
you love, just make sure it's a profitable part of the business. And then that extra money will be able to pay for someone like Josiah to be able to manage the mowing better. Because right now the mowing crew is like just kind of like side dish, because you're spending so much of your time on the big projects.
So yeah, this year that's exactly what's happened. So it's going to definitely be a learning curve and an adjustment, because that's the landscaping and really investing into the customers for a premium experience is kind of what I've really grown the most passionate about over the last 2 years.
Several things. Number one, raise prices dramatically on projects, the big ones. We know that first off, it's a temporary situation, because we don't have the manpower, we're bringing this kind of temporary labor in. Secondly is, right now we're not profitable on it. And if your accountant's saying that, usually accountants are like pretty conservative. So like if he's saying like, hey, you're not making money because you're paying them so much to do this, jack the prices up. You know your close ratio is really high.
Yeah.
Then it's a matter of, well, if we're gonna bring our close ratio down, we don't want to be spending a whole bunch of time on these estimates that we aren't going to close because we have raised prices. Because if your close ratio is gonna drop from 80% to 40 or 50%, that means half the estimates we're doing, we are essentially spending time on and not getting any return.
Yeah.
Then it might be, okay, well, why don't we charge for the estimate? So I would feel much better about saying, yes, spend all the time on these project estimates and project proposals if you're making $300 on every single one, right? Hey, there's a non-refundable deposit. If you accept the job, it'll go towards the project, but it's non-refundable otherwise. I think you cut the amount of estimates down massively so you save a bunch of time on tire kickers, and then you actually have time to focus on the people who actually want the jobs. And the whole reason I think we should do that is because like right now, if I just look at gross revenue of 500,000, we cannot afford a admin person, you being out in the field or out of the field, and then considering even having someone like Josiah being able to do things throughout the day that are not revenue producing. Like it's just too much overhead. So it's like, okay, we can reduce the number of quotes, so you have to spend less time putting stuff together. Then it's a matter of like, I truly believe the admin person, you already have like a couple weeks into it, red flags.
Yeah.
I understand that you might not enjoy doing the admin work and answering the phones and answering emails. I get it. However, you gotta make sure that the business can actually afford to hire an office person.
I thought admin hires would be easier than field laborers, and I was so wrong.
Dude, it's
so wrong.
Way hard. I thought the same thing. Now, like, I'm a big believer it's the exact same thing. You're still gonna have churn, they still need management, they still need metrics, they still need one-on-one calls, they still need retraining, quality control, all of that.
There's a lot of expenses that go into an admin person that's working for you. I usually see home service businesses spending between 10 and 15% of their revenue on the cost of having an admin person. That includes the rent, the utilities, the internet, their wages, the taxes. Everything that goes into having an actual office space can get very, very expensive.
Like, you're spending most of your time on admin.
Yeah.
And so, at a $500,000 business,
Which last year I will say was not the case, but that's the issue
I
we're
think
at
you're
now.
spending more time managing her than just doing the work yourself.
So that's kind of why I was starting to question having done it before. So I think you're probably right.
Some people, if they don't want to do it, they would rather lose money but just not do it. And some owners are successful doing that. It's just like, I hate it so much, even if I'm gonna lose more money, I will delegate it off.
What we could do potentially is say, okay, Wednesday is gonna be your admin day. The whole day, all you're doing is catching up on email, phone calls, voicemail, etc. Sending invoices, sending estimates, all that good stuff. Yeah. It's a matter of looking at every single one of these tasks and say, how can I just create a system around it? So for example, the phone calls, okay, which ones need to be addressed right away? Probably emergency customer service stuff. Does a lead need to be today? Well, in the perfect world, yes, but it doesn't need to be done in the next 5 minutes. Like, do I need to pick up the phone? No. Yeah. I could have it like push 1 for customer service, press 2 for sales. The sales one goes to like, hey, leave a message and within 24 hours, we'll have an estimate to you.
Is that like a software I need or?
What phone service do you have now?
T-Mobile.
And is it like just a cell phone number,
Yeah,
basically?
yeah.
So you probably could contact them and just be like, hey, I want to create a VoIP. It's voice over IP, so where it's basically going to split people based on customer service versus sales. That's just one system though for phone calls. For example, with email, you can create all sorts of filters. If you get a filter that says any email has the word unsubscribe and just put it in my spam folder, you will cut out 80% of your email like that.
For emails, I actually built what's called the Client Writer Pro GPT, where it writes almost identically to me, so I can bang out emails really fast.
I think Dalton is a little distracted when he's trying to create all these very complex systems in the business.
He overthinks a lot of stuff. He makes a lot of stuff a lot more complicated than it needs to be.
Honestly, the best way to create systems, as I've already stated, is simplify and standardize.
There's probably realistically 5 to 10 emails a day that you actually need to address. It's the other 50 that are like random vendor stuff, receipts, spam, people trying to contact you for marketing, all this other garbage.
Yeah.
You can filter tons of that
so
out.
most of that is right now, but yeah, so I would say 5 to 10 you are spot on about of daily emails.
By having all these moving parts when it comes to every aspect of the business, we actually fail to do the simple and basic things that actually move the business forward. All of his time and energy being spent on all these complex things he's building could actually hurt the business.
And so that's why I think like if you literally had one day a week where everyone just knew that like, that's the day they get their estimates from you, that's the day they can contact you, that's the day you respond back to emails and estimates and phone calls, and in the voicemail you literally tell them like, hey, if you want a new estimate, fantastic, we'll get that to you within 24 hours, and then if it's a longer project, I'll make sure I'll get you on the schedule for next Wednesday. We're gonna eliminate probably 1 out of 2 people that even want an estimate for projects because we're asking for the fee up front. Right? Then it's a matter of, okay, well, if we can reduce your admin time by half because you're getting less estimates, can we then create systems around these other things so we don't have to have that person?
I know she put in 2 weeks to come here and everything, so it just makes me feel even worse. That's kind of where forcing personal feelings aside is gonna be mandatory and able to actually follow through and not make it an even worse situation.
Then you could say, okay, Saturday is I'm with the weekend crew.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure the projects are done correctly. I'm gonna make sure they're managed, because now these are high ticket items. I'm making a bunch of profit on them. I can afford to spend that Saturday working with just them.
Friday, I'm also gonna have to, because that's our prep day, so they're not doing all the grunt labor.
Got it. Okay, so Wednesday, admin day. Friday and Saturday, we got project management. So that's with the big crew. Then we got Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday that now you can actually be out in the field. Now what's gonna happen is this. We're gonna save $2,500 a month on her wages. We're going to save half of your admin time. I think over the next month, you could cut out half of your admin time. Getting you to be able to work in the field for 2 days a week. I believe that alone will bring in $5,000 extra revenue to the business. Yep. Now we're talking about $7,500 a month that we are difference.
And now, because I'm doing the high ticket jobs and everything.
You're gonna raise prices on those too.
Yeah.
And you're gonna collect $300 per estimate. So let's just say we do 10 estimates a month, that's $3,000. Now we're at 10 grand extra a month. Then let's say we're gonna raise prices on these projects, let's say by 15 or 20%. Okay, we're literally gonna add $15,000 a month in revenue to the business just by doing those things.
Yeah. So I need someone that I trusted and would listen to kind of reaffirm and show that in a different light for me, which is kind of exactly what Mike did.
Because like right now, you already know that 2 of your team members are weak enough to where you'd probably let them go if it wasn't for all the other stuff that's happening.
Also, yeah, so the one is Sean. He's the longest lasting employee, but it's like, what'd you say, just so like just the effort and all around care isn't there most of the time. He knows what to do,
he's just streaky. Like it's
sometimes good, sometimes bad.
Yeah, it's just like sometimes he's right on point and then other times it's like he don't He don't care.
And Josiah, are you mostly managing the mowing crew right now then? Like where they're at, what jobs are supposed to be doing? Okay, got it.
I'm watching them right now. So. I've kind of been the workhorse in every company I've worked for, so I kind of do everything. Put in about 50 to 70 hours a week, kind of just do what I need to do, you know. If I stayed hourly right now, I'm underpaid about $4,000 at the moment.
So the key thing with him I want was anything kind of mowing related and then like hierarchy wise.
At $500,000 annual revenue, there's no hierarchy. You are the boss, and then you have team members, right? Okay. And if you're going to try to grow past like $1 million plus, yes, you're gonna have a mowing department manager, you're gonna have an office manager, you're gonna have a projects manager, you're gonna have an estimator, etc. But right now, they still need to look to you as the owner and the boss, and you as the manager. Which means you're still there every morning. Yeah. You're still the one that they're gonna come to if they have questions about their paycheck and things like that.
Yeah. But when still anything mowing related is Josiah.
You're gonna hold him responsible for that. But like, he is not their boss, right? Yeah. When you grow a lot larger, you can put hierarchy in place. But right now we can't afford it. Yeah. Right now we need it to, if they have a problem, they're still gonna come to you and you're there every morning for team meetings, etc. At 800,000 plus, we can start having a conversation around, okay, the mowing team, they start at a certain time and Josiah's gonna handle that. But right now, at 500,000, we need to be a manager. We gotta keep our hands in the business. We need to understand where everyone's at, what's going on. And then on Josiah's end, like going in dispatch board at the end of each day, click show stats, see the budget hours from each crew, divide that by how many clocked hours, there's your efficiency score.
And like I said, right now, I don't mind biting the bullet to try to get this company going to where it needs to be and headed in the right direction, but I also can't go into debt while I'm working 70 hours a week, you know?
Just with how stretched I've been and overwhelmed, he's kind of been, I guess, the grounding part to a certain extent.
I've thought about starting my own business many times. I don't want the headache. I'd rather just be kind of the second guy in, you know what I mean? Leave the headache to the owner, but yeah.
Having Mike kind of shed light on it from a different angle, it's like, oh yeah, what I've started doing a little bit is exactly what he's saying needs to kind of become the default. So I am confident in that working out well.
But at the same time, I've been doing this 12 years, and this will be, if this doesn't work out, this will be my last lawn and landscaping job before I move on. So yeah, I'm everywhere doing everything.
The big thing is, like, I believe when you take a crew of say 5 and you take out the 2 lowest performers, the other 3 get just as much work done. They move faster, they don't have to have 3 guys in one truck, you put 1 or 2, and all of a sudden, instead of getting 25 jobs done with a crew of 3, they get 20 done with a crew of 2. In my opinion, like, I would say that Josiah could probably take the entire mowing everything, including even like now, do you handle estimates at all for mowing?
Yeah.
Like, I just say all mowing is all relegated to him.
That's what, we're basically prepping, doing the computer stuff.
If the first hour of his day is maintenance and prep, the last hour of his day is estimates and scheduling, right? With a crew of 3 guys, I think that's doable. Right? Yeah. So if there's a mow that needs redone, blades need done in the morning, whatever, great. If there's 1 or 2 leads that came in the day, he's got to go drive by them, knock those out at the end of the day, and then schedule and dispatch everyone before he finishes up. So if we know, okay, all mowing is being handled by him, everything that rhymes with mowing, from a lead coming in to the time that they're paying invoices, like, that's his responsibility. Yeah. It's his responsibility at the end of the week to say, okay, what's our efficiency score? Budget hours divided by clocked hours. I happen to believe that if you take 5 guys that are currently working 200 hours a week in terms of clocked, I believe if you take that down to 3 guys and they're working 140 or 150 hours in the week, I believe you get all the same amount of budget hours done. Yeah. Immediately increasing your efficiency score by 20 to 30%.
And so I'm now 20% admin, 20% sales, 60% in the field.
Yeah, so anytime he's in the field, that's just money in the bank. If Dalton can figure out his admin side and get in the field more, I think it's not only going to help the company by revenue standpoint, but by morale standpoint as well.
Then where would you say in my admin, or I guess how much weight should creating systems hold? Because I say, like, the phone calls, getting that voice over IP, gonna take some time. Getting the lead forms that really streamline everything, integrate with Zapier, takes some time. Should I now try and prioritize that or make that my Tuesday focus. Is Tuesdays like systems and whatnot, trying to streamline forward thinking.
Honestly, I think you're overthinking.
Okay.
Okay? You're nodding. Does he just generally kind of think overthinking is
Oh,
thing?
he
Yeah, I'm an overthinker on everything.
Okay, great. So we're on the same page. I don't like saying that.
That's
feels
a
like
universal fact.
Okay, so this is the thing. You're overthinking it. Here's why. In 1 hour, we could figure out the VoIP thing. Grasshopper would literally allow you to have a phone number and you split it to your existing phone line and wouldn't have to change anything with T-Mobile.
Okay.
Right? And you literally just exist there in order to be able to split phone calls based on sales and customer service. Instead of saying, okay, here's the 50 systems I need to create to make this better, just be like, okay, I know I'm gonna let her go, and immediately you're gonna find out where all the bottlenecks are. Like, okay, the phone calls, I can't actually be picking up 5 of them in a day. It's too reactive. Okay, great, I'm gonna create the VoIP thing. It is literally a 1 hour operation. And then it's a matter of like, okay, data entry. Like for example, I agree there's a ton of products you're wanting to create a spreadsheet on. That is a one day I'm gonna lock in and just do this. Knowing that as the business grows, your role will change.
Yeah.
So if someone's stuck at being a laborer, they'll never get out of the field. They'll never go out and do focus on estimates. And then the business will stall up against 300,000-400,000. On the other hand, when you're needing to be a manager from 200,000 to 800,000, if you're over here in architect land, you'll never actually get through 500,000-600,000 in annual revenue because they need a manager. They need someone to actually think about these things. And no admin person is gonna actually create those systems for you. This is going to require a manager to step in and take all the skills you have around creating systems on these operational tasks. That will get you to 800,000, and at that point, you'll hire a great admin person to cover your butt there so you can focus on architecting the business.
Would you say it's worth adding Calendarly to the website or keeping that like us being able to kind of filter, assess, and then send it, or with the deposit requirement, they kind of weed themselves out on the website?
This is the part where you're gonna overthink a little bit, but I like where your head's at. Cause like what I like is like on the form, you say choose what services you want, and if they click something like retaining wall, and you have it, then it says, okay, here's the Calendly link, and you know you're gonna charge for it.
Okay.
That's down the road though. I don't wanna say that because I literally know that'll be a month-long project.
I was just thinking, yeah, with the Calendarly.
Don't worry about
okay.
it. Have the form, you know within 24 hours, you're gonna look at the scope of work and determine whether or not you're emailing them a link to Calendly to pay and schedule an appointment, or is this something I can literally drive by tomorrow, Monday or Wednesday, and knock this out in 10 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah, like I think in general, I'd run this, if I was you, is like run things by Josiah when you think you're overthinking something. Because if he can't understand it, I think we nix it. We're running a $500,000 business and you have the brain of a $4 million company.
Exactly.
That was the last year.
Which is great. It means you can probably run a business that size and be okay. But right now, where the business is at, it needs an operator.
Yeah.
It does not need an architect.
Yeah.
Someone's like literally thinking about these massive systems, like genius stuff, like all the forms, like I'm gonna link it all together and the subcontract. We're running a $500,000 business.
Yeah.
We'll get there, but we need to.
Right now we need an operator, right? Like, so I've always said like from 0 to 200,000, you need a laborer. Someone that just goes out and works hard.
Yeah.
From 200,000 to 800,000, you need a manager.
Yeah.
Someone who can manage people well.
Literally what I've been saying I am horrible at. Honestly, I can do
800
big picture, I can do
Well, 800,000
small,
is
but-
architect. 800,000
Yeah.
architect. That's why I believe if you fall back into the role of a manager, you'll get to 800,000, be able to hire a full-time admin, and then you will be able to focus on what you're probably really good at, which is the architect stuff, like building the business and the systems and all. We're just not there.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's like, well, I want to be working on the business. I want to be an architect. Great, you will be. Just if you do it out of order, the business will get messed up.
Yep, and that's what's happening.
And so you're overthinking like the architecture of the, it's like, no, we just need to move the rock. We don't need to think about a crane and all this other like very architectural stuff. Like just focus on moving the rock. Being a great manager right now, trusting Josiah on things, taking the admin stuff yourself, having these systems, like a manager has systems. They look at each of these things and like, oh, I can make this better. I can make this better. Oh, I can make this better. Like every single aspect, that's what a manager does. And I know it's like, man, I thought this year was the year to jump to that. I'd say if you take 1 year and just focus on being a great manager on all these tasks, you'll be able to get to the 800,000 and then you'll be able to focus on that stuff.
Okay. So Josiah's still doing the mowing. That's kind of where we're trying to work out the fine details and basically how can we take stuff off of his plate currently to put him in a position to handle 100% of the lawn mowing. Because before it was him doing like 70, maybe 80% of it. But like any new leads that would come in, the admin would pretty much get all the information set up to where when P gets out of the field, he's basically just looking at the calendar. Cool, I need to go look at these 3 houses, adjust the price and send it out. And then he was doing all of the maintenance. So trying to make it to where if he does get out of the field at 6 p.m. or something, by the time he showers and eats, he's actually in a position to be able to call the customers back at a reasonable time. Because I've noticed usually around 7 o'clock, that's when the odds of someone answering start to decrease. And then by 8 o'clock, you're basically not getting anyone to answer unless you've pre-planned that phone call. This week we've tried making it to where basically the mowing crew is in charge of doing all of their maintenance that Josiah has previously been doing, and trying to separate it out to where on Monday they might have tasks 1, 2, and 3, and then Tuesday it's 4, 5, 6. And just kind of breaking it apart. So the mowing crew has 5 to 10 minutes of morning maintenance and checks. And then the 2 days that Josiah mows, he basically does those same 5 days worth of tasks, just split amongst 2, which should remove about an hour and a half or so per week from Josiah's schedule. And that would put him at pretty much 95% of everything lawn mowing related. And then 5% I intentionally want to keep just so I'm in the loop and know what's going on. General labor rate went from $85 to $100, and then our landscape labor rate went from $100 to $120. And then on the jobs that I know that I am going to be on full force doing, then I basically do whatever the percentage is. If I know that 4 guys going to be on the job, then a quarter of those labor hours are going to be $140 an hour. So across the board, $15 to $20, and then my personal labor rate went up an extra $40 per hour. Proved to myself why I'm worth that when I ripped out 6 shrubs in 5 minutes and it took another guy the same 5 minutes to rip 2 out. I'm like, okay, yep. I'm definitely worth $140 an hour if I'm here the entire day. So far, haven't had any issues with those increased rates, but still very new. So time will tell on that. But either which way, 120 for landscape labor rate will not be changing. I pretty much gave her the opportunity to choose if she wanted to just cut ties completely, or pretty much I would be willing to pay her $200 a week and pretty much cap it at that, and then use her as just kind of like an aid to whatever I might need that week, whether it's making 20 phone calls, coordinating the logistics of landscape jobs. If we get a big surplus of calls, the biggest underlying issue with that was the not being able to truly like monitor what's being done, overinflated hours, just a lack of all-around supervision. So that's kind of where I kept the focus of trying to remove her outright, that Mike had recommended, but not seeing that being the most feasible solution without hindering different aspects of the business. So I kind of looked as to, okay, what was the underlying reason in which Mike proposed this option? And that all kind of came down to the financial side, and then the added, I guess, difficulties to properly manage a remote administrative position. So this was kind of the best of both worlds, in my opinion, to where I'm controlling the amount of pay that she's receiving, but I'm also not being left entirely on my own. Because I say, know that probably 6 weeks into doing the 3 days in the field, 2 days office, my body would get adjusted to the point where I could pretty much work 10 hours in the field, followed by 4-6 hours of admin work. But starting off, I know that just the handful of full days in the field this year, I am whooped by the time I get home, eat, shower, and everything. So then to mentally turn my brain on and have to basically do a half day of office admin would be doable, but I didn't feel was the best decision. And client retention and trying to just all around optimize everything. So that was pretty much her proposal and the mindset behind it. Kind of a meet in a middle ground on what I thought would be the most practical and outright implementing exactly how Mike had said to. The 2 employees are still with us. The week that Mike had came out, the one that we're a little concerned about has started doing extremely good. Me and Josiah talked about multiple different times. We're like not really sure what happened, but if he was at like a 7 or 8 leading up to when Mike had shown up, and then the week prior he had dropped to a 4 out of 10. He's been steadily riding at like a 9 out of 10. So we're like, all right, well, he knows kind of where we stand with everything. So it's just kind of making sure that he knows what had happened, basically, in short, letting emotions, or more so taking out emotions on customer yards isn't acceptable, no tolerance whatsoever. And just, yeah, honestly, so far, no complaints really whatsoever. So kind of riding with that. And then the other employee has become significantly more consistent with showing up. So that was the other side of things with me going out of town. Wasn't really in a position to lose 2 people with 3 days left to try and replace that position. So it's kind of, all right, we have to bite the bullet until we get back. So that gave, was that 8 working days where they both did extremely good. So we're like, all right, well, there's significant improvements over the last 8 days. Now we're in a position to get rid of you. We're just going to kind of write it out. Real similar concept with the first employee, where here's the line in the sand. You've been riding really close to it all year. If I hadn't gone out of town and we did as Mike said, you would be gone right now, but see a lot of potential, want to keep you, but here's the line in the sand, no ifs, ands, or buts. And it's just kind of wait and see how it goes. But so far, really good. Can't complain about anything. So really hoping that stays that way.